Okay. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another podcast on our operations and optimization system series. Today, we're going to talk about how to achieve the best performance you can from a process. That's not just existing ones, but also in the design part, how we actually look at and try and remove potential bottlenecks or try and increase the longevity of some of these fields. And obviously, one of the things we want to talk about as well today is the ability to start developing and using digital twins. Everyone talks about digital twins. Do we all know what they actually mean? Are we actually going to use them? And will they actually add any value? And if we collect information, what are we going to do with that information and make it usable to the operators so they can actually use it in the field? And that's really where I want to start today. So today we're joined by Michel and Tom from Kranji Solutions, also owners and producers of the MySep software. I'm sure I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment or two. Obviously, industry leaders have been around since about 2008, certainly in their current format, looking at separation efficiency and optimization. They have a wealth of knowledge around the world in terms of their consultancy and their support for existing projects. So that I'll pass over to them in a second for introduction. I'm James Walls. My background is in the upstream oil and gas industry for over 30 years now. So I'm going to pass over to everyone else so you can hear from them. Mika?
Okay, I'm Mika Tienhara, CEO of Ralston. I've been working in the oil and gas sector for a few years myself too, actually, and several tech companies, etc.
All right, yeah, my name is Michel van Vorselen. I'm technical director of Kranji Solutions, a consultancy business that we set up in 2008. And I'm working in the oil and gas and energy sector from 1996 onwards. But Tom, up you go.
Hi, I'm Tom Ralston. I'm working mainly for MySep. My role is around the marketing of the software and sales of the software. And I've got a background in process engineering, research, and then software development that's over 30 years long.
Brilliant. Maybe do you two guys, Michel and Tom, do you want to give an introduction into who Kranji are and what you do? Just a brief one.
Yes, of course. Yes, Kranji Solutions. It's a Singaporean-based consultancy company set up in 2008. Let's say it was set up by basically by some business people who were already for quite a long time in the separation business, so phase separation. When we set up the company, we just want to make sure that the company was an independent consultant, and that has worked out pretty well. Let's say being independent, so not supplying any hardware whatsoever. It's a nice position to be in, and basically in. From that period onwards, we also were busy with developing software in order to enable the design and rating of separation equipment. That worked out really nicely, and from 2013 onwards, that software called MySep, we built a company around it, and then the company was also MySep company that basically took all the products from MySep. So now we have two companies. One is Kranji Solutions, and the other company is MySep, and Thomas mainly also dealing with MySep.
Shall I say a bit about what MySep does, Michel?
Yes, please. Yep.
So guys, MySep was really set up with the idea of providing the industry with a software standard for the simulation of separator performance, or rating, as Michel called it, and design of new separation equipment. It can handle two-phase and three-phase separators in horizontal and vertical orientation, and more or less all the standard industry internals that you use for assisting liquid-liquid separation and for facilitating gas-liquid separation can be modeled in MySep. It's used widely in operators to try and understand current operations, and it's used in engineering companies and some hardware vendors to design separation equipment.
So, in terms of what you're currently doing, obviously now we've just come out of a fairly difficult period of time with a lot of companies scaling back or not so much scaling back in terms of working remotely and their operations there. Have people then adopted more of your software in order to help them during this time, or do you find it's been quite difficult for you to engage with the clients?
I don't know if you want to answer that or will I, Michel?
No, you do that, Tom.
Yeah. In terms of the software business, I think it's actually it didn't seem to have a huge negative impact. Indeed, we'd a lot of online engagement on the software that maybe it perhaps manifests the fact that lots of the software everyone uses we're used to buying remotely. So software is maybe a little bit special in that sense that people are quite accustomed to the idea that we'll consume software and license it remotely. We can continue to have a reasonable level of engagement with existing customers by remote means, by platforms like this, for example. And one of the things we did see is that we had a huge ramp up in training. That was partly at our initiative, but also, again, a lot of companies were adapting their operations. And one of the things they could do is build the knowledge of the teams. So we got a tremendous uptake in training, and we trained something like 200 people over the last 12 months, which was, I don't know, Michel, several times what we normally do, I think, in a year. So maybe that reflects a bit of the adaptation of big companies to remote working.
I think, yeah, if I make a comment there. I mean, I think also, let's say, many companies, corporates see that, oh, they can start on a digital journey. They've seen during, let's say, this pandemic to the, oh, it actually works. I think we have you as service provider and consultancy, we've seen that as a tech provider too, that, oh, you can actually help them and to push that, let's say, the digital journey also with operators, contractors, etc. So we've had about the same type of, let's say, experience also during the past years from our side.
I think it's been. I mean, I think it's been a wake-up call, I think, for the industry in terms of they have to look at a different way of collecting data, a different way of processing data and sharing data. Because no more do you have the ability for people just to pop to site to collect some information or go offshore for 5 to 10 minutes, collect some information, come back with it. They have to rely on people either getting it for them or having systems where that information is stored and actually used. Because again, we could be back in this situation again. Heaven forbid that this happens, but we could be back in 6 months. We have restrictions somewhere again. We have no idea how the world's going to change over that one. So I think it's interesting they've moved. The question is now we're beginning to open up again and we're going to go back to the old thing. Do you think seriously the industry is going to maintain this drive forward with information sharing and development, or do you think we might end up slipping backwards?
That's a good question.
It's a good question. I think we're all we're all creatures of habit, and we fall back on old habits. But what we are seeing across the industry is a big push towards digitalization and the digital twins, and that seems to me to be coming from the very tops of these organizations. That at the C level in a lot of the international organizations are really trying to drive better use of the information or the data across the company, and of course I think both our companies are quite well placed to fit into that as niche players in this business. We can provide unique information that isn't available otherwise. So maybe it's an opportunity as well for us to ramp up our usage across a lot of the operating companies and the supply chain to the operating companies.
Yeah, I agree on that, because I think seeing now, let's say all these companies, okay, we have to be more digital, and like I say, okay, so you try to get these, let's say, operational digital twins to be able to optimize and predict, etc. But doesn't it also reveal the gaps they have, I would say, at the same time, that, okay, they look at, oh, we have this type of data, but is it useful? Are we missing parts of it? Could we enhance it with both better simulators, or could we get better data from processes like James, what we're doing with let's say our data capture and insights for, let's say, when we talk about separators and going into emulsions, solids.
Yeah.
So emulsions is a huge issue, and yeah, we've done quite substantial work there.
No, I mean, I think that's one of the things that people are looking at. I mean, if you look at these facilities, I mean, they all gather a whole load of information, a whole load of sensors all over the place. They've been put in over the years. They've been design basis. This is what we need to have as a minimum, and we add other additional parts in. But the question is, are they actually giving you the information to make the system run any better? Are they there for safety, or what are they there for? So I think there probably has to be some questioning about how we run these things and the information we have and what bits are missing. I think particularly if you look around, let's say emulsions, solids, again even into the water treatment side of it, typically you have key specialists in various fields, various companies, who will be the ones who are the gurus, the people that people will go to, because these are the guys who've lived through this, have experienced it, know how it works, and know whereabouts to hit it with a hammer. And I think that is something which, if you can provide more information, then it becomes a lot more usable, because we can't continue that way. We need to have the information, because those are the areas that are really causing the problems now. It's to do with unplanned shutdowns. Most of those unplanned shutdowns come from either solids removal, excursions, or some sort of trip. So if we can get rid of those sort of things and improve that part, then people are going to be a lot freer in terms of what they do. So I think in terms of what we're doing and trying to provide information on emulsions, where they are, how they break, how they separate, how you can manage them, I think is going to be a key piece of jigsaw. But also the other bit that you guys do in terms of the actual theoretical and the evaluation of what's already there and also what they're going to do makes a huge difference. But having confidence in that and utilizing that information correctly, and using it not just once. I'm going to keep going on a few minutes, but use it continuously during the operation. It's not just a quick design review on the day it's built. It's a design review after every period of time when the process changes. How many people actually do that? They probably don't.
No,
So,
because my question is, do you really get that sort of information? Because what we obviously see is we go to the customer, we have a meeting with the customer, then we ask them, okay, do you face any issues with your operation? You know the answer already, and that's always a no.
exactly.
And then you're even in a physical meeting. Let's say what we also saw over the last 2 years, when everything was via Teams or another a software program, then you're far from each other. You're not even sitting behind the table anymore, and then you don't get any information anymore from how operation is moving along. So you don't hear anything about the issues anymore.
Yeah. Now I need to, I'm working with startups, and I love that, to kind of build own companies. And I have to, as such, you're disrupting. I'm sticking out my head, and I don't mean to offend the operators or so, but my comment here, first of all, is that do they actually know themselves? Because they do, let's say, so much manual operations, so manual sampling. And I think whether we go to them or Tom or Michel, you go to them, do they really know? I think they lack these insights. And also when we've kind of collected all these insights and said, oh, first time ever we've seen this in, I don't know, 20, 30, 50 or 100 years, whatever. But let me run you through a few facts, gentlemen, because if you think about it, does it really matter to, let's say, create insights, not just pure data, but the insights. 75% of maintenance, US Gulf Coast processing industry, unplanned.
Mhm.
75%. And root cause for that is run to failure. You
Yep.
run to failure when you don't have the right insights.
Yep.
It's a loss of $650 billion annually. You know that separators, the main root cause for failure, 52% of the cases, faulty level devices. 52%.
Yep.
So there's no
Yep.
data. It causes separator failures. What kind of effect has that? That can be quite serious, of course. In North America, the refineries have a huge amount of unplanned shutdowns. They spew out more than 2,000 production years of toxic pollution into the air due to unplanned shutdowns.
Yep.
So of course, and if you think about, okay, man-made GHG emissions, 34% come from energy production, 24% from manufacturing industry. So of course we should try to do something here with digital twins. And it's not like one single company is going to salvage everything. We have to collaborate. And when I looked at one research study, mentioned that 10% efficiency gain for existing oil and gas fields, it actually reduces the carbon footprint by some 4%. Does it matter? Well, a new, let's say, very digitalized field, no water breakthrough, no emulsions, no solids, what's okay. They can actually go. There's even carbon neutral production by Lundin, I believe, in Norway, but it has maybe some 10,000 tons of CO2. But the mature fields, the old ones, it can be the saving of 1 million tons CO2 per year.
Yep.
So of course it has an huge effect. So I think you have something unique with your simulators and software there. Perhaps we also have an element of data that can support to even improve the functionality, create even further value to customers. That's what I think. So, but I think it's astonishing data and information from the sector that, guys, the community, we have to improve this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk a bit about digital twins, but before I latch onto that, I think when I look at the operations of some of the facilities we've looked at and we've touched on with our customers, I mean, I think there's two levels. First of all, when you survey some facilities and you look at the separation designs that are installed in the facilities, you need to ask the question, first of all, why we've designed facilities to operate with some of the very poor configurations of separators that we see. So there's that level. If you can deal with that first of all and remediate some of the very poorly configured separation equipment, then you can begin to think about accurately predicting what the performance might be. So eliminate some of the low-hanging fruit is the really badly configured separation equipment. And often we need to use our most sophisticated modeling techniques to try and establish what might be happening in those types of equipment today, Michel. I think that's a place where Kranji is very
exactly,
engaged.
Tom. Yeah, I think you're making a real good point there. Let's say if we just look at Kranji solutions, I think that 60% of our turnover is really, let's say, troubleshooting the bottlenecking. Basically retrofit or looking at retrofits of separators that failed, that basically caused unplanned production stops. So there's definitely something to learn there, and I think that's also the original plan why we set up MySep, because if you just look at Kranji Solutions, let's say the work that we do there for an oil and gas separator, it is too late. Huh? The damage is done.
Yeah.
And by developing MySep, we knew that people would be able to develop and design better equipment. So that was really, let's say, I would say that the main focus of MySep. Then, if you take MySep over the years, then yes, looking at proper designs, but then also looking at looking at existing separators, how to rate existing separators. So that was basically the next step in MySep. And now with MySep, we're going much further. We're going with MySep, and especially MySep engine, and we're going into the process simulators, and we're going to look at the digital twins. That basically, Tom, that will be your next subject. But that no, it is clear that Kranji Solutions, that the majority of the troubleshooting work and consultancy work that we see is fixing issues that should not have happened in the first place.
Yeah.
But I mean, can I just ask you, I mean, how do we get operators, asset owners, to kind of admit also that, we have a low sophistication here, or that we can actually enhance it, do all this troubleshooting, improve that, because I think it's a financial improvement for them in terms of performance. Maybe also, I mean, in terms of ESG, much better. But so it's very much about the change of mindsets, because it's not just one facility. I mean, what I think we have to drive for is the portfolio level. Can we reinvent on your portfolio level to push performance? Isn't that, I mean, if we get the digital twins running, you have really good, let's say, very accurate insights, or do all the predictions and look at troubleshooting. I mean, I think that's the direction we have to head for.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes back to some of the problems we talked about earlier on about information. I think to a certain degree, we've put up with failing vessels that are not working quite optimally, because we believe that's all we could actually have. It was okay, we'll get around it, we'll deal with it, and we'll sort it out. We won't necessarily do that with anything else. We won't do that with a compressor or anything else which is going to be more problematic or have a huge impact on the operation. But if it comes to a big tank, we'll do something. We'll throw chemicals at it. We'll do well configurations. We'll shut things in. We'll do all kinds of stuff. We'll basically play around with our chemistry set to get the answers out of it, as opposed to thinking ourselves, well, is there a better way of actually doing this?
Yeah, but I'm very passionate about it. I mean, for me, it feels like that's all cover-up actions. You're not really looking at what's the root cause. Push in more chemicals or other cocktails or whatever, but you're not really solving the problems.
But that's also partly because a lot of the time you don't have the information at the start out, the beginning part, or you then don't collect the data during the first period of time to see whether or not you've actually made the right decision. There probably is no after-action review done once it's plant up and running to see, did we do the right stuff? Most teams have moved on from that plant or a next plant. Now the operations team, and their job is, we've got this, make it work. It's a different mindset than doing that part. And that's where software like yours and MySep is, if it can be used up front there and it's got the learning fed back into it again, it also feeds a bit into your digital twin there, take the learnings you've got from existing fields, existing systems, and use it as a basis for moving forward, then I think we're going to get around some of this. Because this problem is not just the energy sector. Lots of other sectors that manufacture things, have tanks, wherever it is you want to go, have exactly the same problems. A lot of them are onshore, which is easier because we have land we can build stuff on. At the moment, that's becoming a harder issue in lots of countries. So you can't just add concrete just because you feel like it anymore. You're not allowed to, because people want it for something else. So we have to improve that sort of learning as well, and that sort of development for other industries as well, not just this one, because they all admit, they all do things. Everything we do needs to be, I think, looked at and reviewed and think to ourselves, okay, are we actually doing this properly? What's the best way of doing this? Maybe having a rethink.
Yeah, I think so. Rethink, reinvent, because I have to get back again to, like the cover-up actions. And so we said, well, first of all, now operators they want to admit, or they say, oh, we don't have data, or we don't want to share, or whatever. And anyhow, separators, we can't get more out of it. So instead they do cover-up actions. So said, oh, we're gonna install a huge carbon capture and storage system. Are we gonna do fancy direct air captures that captures really almost nothing, close to zero in terms of the volumes?
Mhm.
These are also cover-up actions. I think we have to unite and work together, build these, let's say, at OTC this year. We were a bunch of people in my panel. We created a Carbon Busters team. And, everyone wants to kind of go that direction. I mean, how can we unite in the community? I mean, in terms of, let's say, industry collaborations, because I think operators, yes, they want this. They just don't know how to unlock that potential. And it's hard for, let's say, sure, you're successful in your business. We're on a successful path with our business. But I think combining the forces, the whole value, I mean, we can make it much, much larger, and also involving the operators. Wouldn't that be a good?
I think. I mean, we've recently been talking to some of our customers about, can we come and look at your survey, your separation for you, and this could be a good opportunity to perhaps give them a more complete service in that sense. So survey what you've got, evaluate what it's doing today with the best predictive techniques we can do, and then demonstrate to you the potential for improvement. What could be how much production how much extra production could you have if you do this, and this to these separators on your system? So I think maybe, Mika, that's really what you're talking about, something like that. And I think in-house, they might think that they've got the capability to do it, but in practice, if you ask them, well, is anyone doing this? We don't have the staff, or the people that really knew how to do this, they're gone, they retired. So we don't have the expertise. We're spread too thin in our engineering groups to do this. So I think, potentially the time's right to go and take that kind of service to people and help them improve their operations. But then you need to get buy-in at a very senior level to invest in this.
Mm-hmm.
But if we have a good business proposition to them, and if we talk about separators, let's think about it, because methane emissions, that's a big issue, flaring. And there's vessels too. The flare knockout drums, are they functioning very well? For instance, so people should look, I mean, the decision makers, there's so much we could actually look into to improve the efficiency, to reduce emissions. And don't just go for, let's say, oh, we know we can't do anything here, and instead we're going to try something very fancy in 10 years time, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm trying to provoke a bit, but anyhow.
No, that's fine. I think unfortunately we do need to provoke a little bit, because we are being quite complacent. The fact is we are making slow progress moving here. I mean, 10 years ago or so, flaring was not the issue it is now. People were flaring all over the place because they could. They were producing gas they didn't want. Nobody wanted it. They were burning it. We know that in a variety of countries around the world. You could see the flare stacks everywhere. Suddenly everyone, gas, we need it. Okay, so we are moving slowly forward, but we've sort of been dragged towards it as opposed to going towards it. The marketplace said we need gas. Everyone said, okay, fine, we'll start producing gas for you. But then we need to do this. Even during the transition period of energy, we're still going to have to produce hydrocarbons, whether it's gas, oil, LNG, whatever we're going to do, we're still going to produce it even afterwards. And we start moving towards more electrical stuff. We still need these products for other purposes. So we're still going to produce them from somewhere. I think the way of actually trying to do that is through efficiency and through that part. But I think the biggest challenge also we've had in the industry itself is notorious for this, is that we've had companies in the past who've been consultants or have been going around doing stuff, and they've suggested ideas. They end up with a big thick report of here we could do all these things, but there's never been a plan to actually look at which of those should actually be done or implemented or whatever. We've never really done that part afterwards. And I think the difference between now and then is that rather than it being guesswork or some samples or something somebody's taken from the field, this is actually real-time data from the field you can get. So we're not developing it in our own theory, using our own ideas and systems. This is stuff from your information, from your plant. We can give you the information on, which is completely different. You know, you're not relying on two guys to go out with a sample bomb and collect some crude samples and say, well, this is what it does. It's actually telling you what's going on inside the vessels. And that, I think, is a far different answer than the ones we've had previously. But that's because, okay, fair enough, the information wasn't available before. It is now. So let's utilize it.
Oh, yes. And my hypothesis is that, you know, energy efficiency, that's the way to accelerate the path to net zero. We need to be brave. We need to be kind of re-innovators in a way, carbon busters, and you know, and build this collaboration, because yeah, we can talk about it, and it's not just ambition, but we have to take it to action.
Yes.
And how to collaborate, you know, whether we call it R&D or maybe that's not the right word, but you know, a innovation ecosystem that we have the operator with us. Let's look at your portfolio, share your data, open innovation. It's not to kind of make you look bad, but we want to help you. We have the tools. If we combine our forces and expertise, I think we can achieve a lot. So I think that's my appeal also to the audience, the operators. I will also share the link. Say, listen to our podcast. We have a message to you. Are you open for this?
Exactly. I think there's a big difference there. Is we're not looking at just doing blue sky R&D research to come up with some new technology or some new ideas. This is to take the existing technology and use it in a way that's going to benefit the systems you've currently got, and that's a big difference than doing it the other way around. You know, we may have already the solutions. We may have to develop new stuff. Maybe look at it differently, apply it differently, but it's going to be based upon the needs of the clients, not just because let's create something new. And the oil and gas, I mean, particularly if you go downhole, the oil and gas company has been some of the best innovators ever for drilling. You know, the minute a new plan comes up for doing it, a new way of doing it, they've been great adapters and great adopters of that sort of technology. But when it comes to the other side of the platforms, etc., I think we've been lacking quite badly in terms.
It's quite a conventional industry, yeah. If you look at it from that
very
side.
conventional. Yep. Nothing really has changed. I mean, I've said this before in other podcasts. You know, nothing's really changed in 110 years. We've still got steam. We've still got barrels. We've still got nothing has really changed. The only thing we've stopped using offshore is donkeys. That's about the only thing we haven't done. But well, because that separately. But there is something which we need to do now, and I think, you know, maybe now is the time for people to actually do that, because there's such a push on ESG. How can we do this? What do we need to do to reduce this? And how do we then just take that into other industries, other businesses as well? I think it's a good time to go and do it. But then it needs the operators to come with us. Without them, we can't do it alone.
No, sure. And they have to be a bit brave too. And you know, discussions I've had, and also co-written with operators, with venture parties. We published a paper at OTC also showing on the path to open innovation. And I think they see that we have to work in a different way. And also it was Chevron Ventures also told that when they started engaging startups, they had to share data. How would otherwise startups be able to come up with some solutions? But I think we really have a strong message to the industry, I would say, and it's not about gents, let's come up with something really novel and something else and get 100 million euro and fund our new startup and do some stuff that maybe has an impact in 10-15 years. We have the tools, the capabilities to change this tomorrow if we have the operator with us. and look at it as at the portfolio level. And that's what I hear from being at various events and ventures, CERAWeek, OTC. They're ready. So I think we just have to find the playground now together and do a proposition to suitable operators. I'm sure we can have success with this, definitely, because they're open for it. They want to enhance performance. They want to have a good route for ESG and net zero. So I think they're open for it.
Yeah, I would like to think you're right there, Mika. I think we were presenting at the Oil and Gas Digital Twin Conference 2022 a couple of weeks ago, and there we took the approach of trying to show at a very practical level what you could do with a digital twin to improve operations. And you know, I think a lot of the problem around this is that the people are very they're very attuned to the concept of digital twins, but you struggle to find the case studies of the success that people have actually achieved on a real process, on a real facility. And I'd like to see more of that, and we're trying to get engaged with people that are going to go and run with that idea in the area where we work and where separation can really help them. So you know, I think there's goodwill and there's interest, and it's a case of really trying to jump on the most promising prospects to demonstrate with some good case studies what can actually be achieved.
I think so, definitely. I think that's what we need to try and do, definitely. I mean, we're not talking huge investment here either. If you look at it, what they're looking for, this is small amounts of money. It is time and effort on their side as well. It's not huge amounts though, but we can do this if there's a will and we go and do it. So maybe there just needs to be a way of us combining that together into a proposal and say, right, this is what we need to do, but then we need to pick on some clients, or some clients need to come forward and say, we want to do this now. Let's go and do it.
Yeah, and there's so much expertise in our companies, others, of course, consultants, tech providers, etc. So I mean, the industry, the operators, utilize this. Don't think that, oh, you have to reinvent or come with completely something new. I'm sure we can help them and deliver value. So I think, of course, like you say, Tom, to get the use case, share this. Yep. What works? What did not work so well? What can we improve? Where are the boundaries? So I think we have to look a bit into, let's say, what cases we have, maybe you, and maybe should invite an operator. We have a follow up on this and discuss it. Okay, what could be a good roadmap? This is what we want to do. Do you agree, or do you want to be on board? and enable this, because I think we have to do this, and that's a mission. I believe we also share that. Okay, there's a great potential for the industry, for the future of our planet to go this way. So I think I won't give up until I've achieved that.
I think it's also that it's not only the operators, but you also need to have obviously the contractors on board, because I think that what we've seen so far is that the operators, they like the technology, they really embrace it, but then quite often what we see is that then a contractor comes in between. And they take a different path, they take a different route. And quite often that's also financially driven. And there we go again. And then we go back into the conventional thinking. And I think that there it goes wrong, and there the contractor needs to be taken on board as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree. And I think also it's partly the operator's role to put the right KPIs there on the contractor. We need also this to be part of the delivery.
Exactly. I think the contractors are a key piece of this jigsaw puzzle as well, because without them, there's a lot of them end up being operators or operating on behalf of, etc. as well. They need to be part of this journey. And I know we always say we want to push down from the end users to try and drive that forward. That sort of trickle-down effect doesn't appear to work as well as it should do. Certainly not everywhere. Some places it does work really, really well, and there's a good link, but very often it is a break we need to work on.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, it's a huge sector. There's a lot of improvements we can do, and many times, I mean, when I meet other startups, etc., oh, they get enthusiastic. Oh, they get the pilot, then nothing happens. And of course, dealing with infrastructure, deployment times, and scale up, it takes years, of course. And with all the, let's say, technology readiness, risk assessments or de-risking, etc., getting the right, let's say, time schedules for everything. But I think we have to try at least. And what my takeaway from this is actually that, yeah, let's see if we can organize something where we get both an operator and contractor involved and discussing this with us, and see what we can make out of it. And maybe perhaps we have to do a follow-up at some point. Say that, okay, here we are. We have achieved. Okay, but still a journey to continue on, whatever.
I think I think is a way of doing it. If we can engage with them, whether or not they want to do in a public broadcast of this at the moment to start with, or start doing it privately, I suspect that I don't think we'll get a tech talk where they're going to come onto it just yet. But I think if we can start engaging with them and say, look, this is what we can offer here and do this part, I think there is a potential for that to go. Yeah.
So any other final words from Tom or Michel, or?
Yeah, I think we are on some good
track?
ground there, and you know, I really we're trying as hard as we can to reach out to the people that can appreciate the value, and I think often the folks who understand the value are not the people that are holding the budgets. I mean, that's 90% of the time we find that it's challenging to get to the people who have the power to unleash even what James called the sort of small amount of investment that's needed to bring success here. So I think we need to work on that buying process with the operating companies. They are often focused in particular silos within their organization towards investment and decision making, and sometimes you got to break some of that down to get something to happen.
Yeah, of course, I agree, Tom. There's many hurdles still, but let's push for it. Try to do our part to, let's say, make it a bit simpler or easier. And I'm on board with, yeah.
Well, I think in many ways we are doing that. I mean, the fact is the success of both the MySep system that you've rolled out to people and where it's being used, the Kranji solutions review and upgrades and monitoring and performance evaluation of separator trains has really been beneficial to most of the ones it's been applied to, and the customers have seen the benefit. The customers have seen that benefit. You've got that references, you've got that there. We're seeing it now from our deployment of our equipment as well, that customers are beginning to see insights they would never have seen beforehand. They don't like the insights they're seeing, and I suspect when you guys go and talk to them as well, they don't like the insights you tell them, because it suddenly realizes that, damn, this isn't really working how it should be doing, but it's still working to a point. We're trying to make it better, and that's a difference. So everything we can do, we're working with them, is all we're going to do is improve it. We're not going to make it worse. That's a guarantee. You know, there's nothing we can realistically do that's going to make your situation any worse than it currently is. So let's go ahead and do the other part.
That sounds great. So I'll thank you for the really great discussion and contributions here, Michel and Tom. So we'll continue offline, of course, with some things, but and we'll be back. All of us probably. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
very
Mika.
much.
Thank you, James.
Really appreciate it. It's been good fun. Thank you.
Goodbye, gentlemen.
Bye now.